Hi everybody. Now in this video we are going to discuss about the function of the tubule from excretory products and their elimination chapter. So function of the tubule. So we all know that the nephron has different parts. The nephron has different parts. So when we look into the nephron, the functional unit of the kidney, we say that it is having the different parts, and the most important parts that we have seen and we have labeled the parts are, the first one we called it as what? The glomerulus, or here the glomerulus, okay, and here we said that it is the Bowman's capsule, okay, Bowman's capsule, which is there like a cup-like structure, we said. Now here if you are seeing the other part, the renal part or the renal tubule, we said, which starts with the proximal convoluted tubule and then followed by the long tube which is in U-shaped, which we call this as what? The Henle's loop, which is having two parts, we said. What are those? The descending limb and also the ascending limb. Of course, in some textbooks you may be seeing that this one will be called as the transverse limb, we call it as. But otherwise here we also say that there is another part, okay, there is another part called as what? The distal convoluted tubule, and then followed by what now? The collecting duct, okay, the collecting duct is there. So here we are seeing at different parts of the nephron. So we will be talking about the function of the different parts of the tubule, the renal tubule, starting with the proximal convoluted tubule. And in a simple way we have to remember these points, okay. So now let us start with the proximal convoluted tubule. Now here if you are seeing the first one, PCT represents as what? Proximal convoluted tubule, and it is having simple cuboidal brush bordered epithelium. Simple cuboidal brush bordered epithelium. The most important point why we are highlighting this is that it increases the surface area of reabsorption. Please remember that this particular cells, these particular cells helps in increasing the surface area for reabsorption of the substances from the nephron. So here we are talking about now what is the function of the proximal convoluted tubule. It reabsorbs whatever is entering inside into the air, forming as the filtrate. We already said from the whatever that is now filtered into the nephron will not be eliminated in the form of urine. Only just 1.5 liters of urine will be eliminated per day, we are saying. So how it is possible? Because it is being reabsorbed. All that which is filtered will be reabsorbed. So here what is reabsorbed from the proximal convoluted tubule? Now essential nutrients. There may be glucose, that is a very essential nutrient, but it may be in excess, that is there formed in our body or absorbed from the digestive system, and which is not required by the body. In such cases it will be eliminated. But whenever the nutrients are less present in our body and they are there filtering through the excretory system or through the kidneys, immediately when the body demands for those nutrients, immediately those nutrients will be reabsorbed. So like you can take now as glucose. So that is one of the essential nutrient. When it is now present in less quantity supplied to the body and it is there present eliminating from the excretory system, immediately from the excretory system it will be reabsorbed. So essential nutrients will be reabsorbed from the proximal convoluted tubule. 70 to 80% of the electrolytes, all the electrolytes will be absorbed from the proximal convoluted tubule, and even water, okay, even water is also reabsorbed from the proximal convoluted tubule. So what is reabsorbed from the proximal convoluted tubule? We have to keep in mind. Now why? What is the function of reabsorbing all these substances? It helps to maintain pH. It helps to maintain pH and also the ionic balance of body fluids. Ionic balance of body fluids. Please remember, pH is very important and it should maintain ionic balance of the body fluids. The concentration should not increase nor decrease of the body fluids. So that's why it is possible with the reabsorption of these substances that are through the proximal convoluted tubule. And ionic balance of body fluids by selective secretion. It selects and secretes. Okay, it selects and secretes what should be required and what is not required, it will be based upon that it will be performed. So by selective secretion of what? H plus ions, K plus ions and ammonia into the filtrate. Now it is secreting all these substances into the filtrate by absorption of what? Bicarbonates from it. So it is secreting in order to maintain the ionic balance and also to maintain pH. Now what is happening is there is a selective secretion is taking place. Secreting the H plus ions, potassium ions, ammonium ions into the filtrate, and then from the filtrate it is taking back what now? The bicarbonates. Very, very important, we have to keep in mind. So in this way it will try to maintain the ionic balance and thereby to maintain the pH of the body fluids. This is the points that we have to keep in mind when we are discussing about the proximal convoluted tubule. Now we will discuss about the Henle's loop. The next part as the Henle's loop we are going to discuss now. So the second part is the Henle's loop. Okay, the second part of the nephron is the Henle's loop. Now if you are seeing the Henle's loop, we can say that we can in a simple way, let us try to understand in this way that this is the Henle's loop of the nephron. Okay, of the nephron. So Henle's loop, already we said that it is having one descending limb and also one ascending limb, we are saying. Okay, descending limb and also ascending limb. So let us say that this is what now? The descending limb. Okay, descending limb we are saying. And this is what now? This is the ascending limb. Okay, ascending limb. Okay, ascending limb we are saying. Now Henle's loop is having two parts, main parts. Of course this part, again I am stressing, this may be called as transverse limb. Okay, transverse limb, this part, only this part can be called as transverse limb. But otherwise here we are saying that there are two parts. Okay, descending limb and that which is moving down, and that which is moving up is called as what? Ascending limb. Now here if you are seeing the ascending limb, very, very important point that we have to remember regarding the ascending limb is reabsorption is minimum. Reabsorption is minimum. There will be no more reabsorption. More reabsorption will not take place from the ascending limb. Okay, and why it is? In order to maintain high osmolarity of medullary interstitial fluid. High osmolarity of medullary interstitial fluid means on the outside of the nephron, in the cortex, in the medullary region. Say suppose if this is the kidney, okay, if this is the kidney we are saying, and this we said that this is the cortex, and here this part is what? The medulla. Okay, medulla. So here the nephron is having the U-shaped tube like this. Okay, U-shaped tube like this, and this is the ascending limb, let us say ascending limb. So it is now reabsorption is minimum. Why reabsorption is minimum? So that the concentration outside, that is what? In the medulla, the concentration outside means medulla, and the concentration inside the nephron should be maintained, should be balanced. That's why the reabsorption is what? Minimum. So it will be balancing, the concentration outside and the concentration inside should be balanced. Otherwise there may be movement of the molecules from outside to inside or from inside to outside. So that's why it will be, the reabsorption will be minimum to maintain what? High osmolarity of medullary interstitial fluid, means in the medullary region, okay, which is in direct contact now with the nephrons, that is the Henle's loop. So that's why the ascending limb is showing reabsorption as minimum. Now let us be very clear with this. As we said, there are two parts now, descending limb and ascending limb. The limb that is moving towards down, the limb that is moving towards up now. Here descending limb means moving down. So here if you are seeing, the descending limb is permeable to water. The descending limb, this limb from the filtrate, okay, from the filtrate it is permeable to what now? Water, means it can collect the water from the filtrate. It is allowing, it is permitting, permeable to water. It is helping, or it can reabsorb the water, okay, permeable to water. But it is impermeable to what? Electrolytes. Either it is sodium ions or potassium ions, they are impermeable here. So when the ions concentration is increasing here but water is being reabsorbed, obviously the urine that will be formed or the filtrate becomes what? More concentrated, because water is reabsorbed back. There is less water as it is moving down, less water is there. Why there is less water? Because it is reabsorbed. Permeable to water, it is permitting. It can reabsorb the water, okay? Permeable to water we are saying, but not permeable to electrolytes. That's why the result is concentrates the filtrate as it moves down. As the filtrate is moving down, it is becoming more concentrated. More concentrated means what? It is containing less water and more electrolytes. Why it is containing less water? Because the water is being permeable or it is reabsorbed back, okay? It is reabsorbed back. So water is less, electrolytes are more, making the filtrate concentrated, making the filtrate concentrated. This is just opposite when it moves to the ascending limb. And when you look into the ascending limb, it is impermeable to water, means from this limb it is not allowing the water to be reabsorbed back. Water cannot be reabsorbed, it is impermeable to water. But whereas the electrolytes are permeable, means from here the electrolytes will be absorbed, okay? Electrolytes are absorbed, okay? Electrolytes. Here what is absorbed? Water is reabsorbed, we are saying. So when the electrolytes are reabsorbed and water is more, the filtrate becomes dilute. So it now dilutes the filtrate, okay? Dilutes the filtrate. And we have to remember, it is permeable to electrolytes, we are saying, okay? It is permeable to electrolytes. It is allowing the electrolytes to move either by active transport or passive transport. So here these are the points we have to remember when we talk about what? The Henle's loop. And now the next one is distal convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. We are, in short, we are calling it as what? DCT. So we have seen the Bowman's capsule. Okay, we said that it is having different parts: PCT, Henle's loop, and now this part is called as what? Distal convoluted tubule, followed by the collecting duct. Now we are talking about the distal convoluted tubule. Here, conditional reabsorption of sodium ions and water will be taking place. And please remember this point. It's a very important point. Okay, it is a very important point. Conditional reabsorption of sodium ions and water will be taking place in distal convoluted tubule as per the requirement only, as per the need only. This will be taking place. Reabsorption of sodium ions and water will be taking place. Already we said it is taking place in PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. But if it escapes there, then the second chance is what? In the distal convoluted tubule, that these sodium ions and water will be reabsorbed. But otherwise the same points, okay? So here there will be also what? The same thing that is happening in the proximal convoluted tubule. Reabsorption of bicarbonates will be taking place. Reabsorption of bicarbonates will be taking place. And here the same repeated points as we studied in the proximal convoluted tubule. Selective secretion of H+ ions, potassium ions, and the ammonia will be taking place, ammonium ions. And why all this is taking place? Already we said it is to maintain what? pH, and also to maintain the sodium ions and potassium ions balance in the blood. Sodium ions and potassium ions balance in the blood. Okay, so for which there will be reabsorption of these substances that is taking place in the distal convoluted tubule. But here remember that in distal convoluted tubule, conditional reabsorption is taking place. Conditional reabsorption is taking place only when it is required. This process will be taking place. This process will be taking place. And now we will see the next one. And now we will see the last part of the nephron of the renal tubule, collecting duct. Collecting duct. And in the collecting duct, or if you see the collecting duct, it will be there continued in the cortex to medulla, continued from the cortex to medulla. So it is like it is there present both in the cortex region, part of the cortex region and part of the medullary region. What is present now? Collecting duct will be present. Collecting duct will be present. So here, because in the other case, in the previous video we said that cortical nephrons will be there, juxtaglomerular nephrons will be there, where the nephron will be deep inside, we said, into the medulla. Okay, into the medulla we said. But in the case of the collecting duct, it will be there present. Part of the collecting duct will be present in the cortex region, and part of the collecting duct will also be present in the medulla region. And now What is the importance of this collecting duct? Helps in reabsorption of more amount of water, means from the filtrate, as we said, more amount of water will be reabsorbed. When more amount of water is reabsorbed back into the blood, what happens now? It is retaining only the electrolytes, and it leads to what result now? It leads to now concentrates the urine. Concentration of the urine increases because the urine is containing less water. What happened to that water? It is reabsorbed back. Now till the previous one we are calling it as the filtrate. Now once it enters into the collecting duct, we are using the word urine. So what all is now reabsorbed from the collecting duct, remaining part of that filtrate now will be called as urine. This urine is more concentrated, which is more concentrated. Why it is more concentrated? Because it is containing less water. Why it is containing less water? Because the water will be reabsorbed more from the collecting duct. Okay, collecting duct, making the urine more concentrated, And very important point, as we study about this chapter, we should keep that excretion means elimination of nitrogenous metabolic waste in the form of what? Urea, in the form of urine. Elimination of nitrogenous metabolic waste. Okay, elimination or excretion of nitrogenous metabolic waste in the form of urine. Urea in the form of urine. It is eliminated. Means we are eliminating what now? Urea in the form of what? Urine. So point that we have to remember here is that in the collecting duct, the concentration of urea increases. Remember that. But now if it is increasing in the collecting duct, say suppose if this is the collecting duct, where part of the collecting duct is present in what we said, in the cortex region, and part of it is present in the medulla, we said. So let us say this is the cortex region and this is the medulla. So now what is there present more? We are saying, if we are saying that urea is present, okay, concentration of urea is increasing now. Urea concentration is increasing means there are chances that from the medulla, the water that is there in the medulla may enter back to dilute the urea, because concentration of urea is increasing. In order to prevent that entry of water back from the medulla into the collecting duct because of the urea concentration, here urea very small, allows these small amounts of urea into what now? Medullary interstitium. Just to balance here now, some of this urea will be coming back into the medullary region, okay, medulla. That is only we are calling it as medullary interstitium, we are calling it as, or in simple we are calling it as medulla. So some small amounts of urea are coming back into the medulla. So because of, now it means that here also in the medulla, what is there? Urea is there. This point is again discussed in the very first video. Okay, urea is there in the medulla also. Now urea is also there present in the collecting duct. Because of it, there will be balancing of this concentration of the urea inside the collecting duct and compared with the medullary region, means outside the collecting duct. So that's the point we have to remember here. First thing is what? It is reabsorbing more water, so it is turning up the urine as more concentrated. At the same time, in the urine, what is there? Urea in the form of urine, we are eliminating it, which means urea is there. Urea concentration is increasing and it may be now leading to the reabsorption of water from the medulla to dilute the urea because of the presence of more urea. That should not happen, that will not happen. So how it will not happen means some of the urea will be coming out and present in the medulla in order to balance this concentration of the urea inside and outside. So here why it is means, see here it is given for osmolarity, in order to maintain the concentration inside and outside. That is we are calling it as what? For osmolarity, some of the urea will be moving out from the collecting duct into the medullary interstitium. Please remember that. And above all, we should remember that collecting duct is also helping in maintaining the pH, ionic balance in blood by selective secretion of what? H plus ions and K plus ions. By selective secretion of H plus ions and K plus ions. These are the points that we have to keep in mind when we are discussing about the function of the tubules.